Everyone's talking about AI like it's the second coming of electricity. But is it? Or are we just riding another hype wave while your spreadsheets, forecasts, and financial models stay exactly the same? Well, what if the hype is running ahead of the reality, especially in finance? I just finished watching a comprehensive ACCA webinar featuring Professor Arvind Narayanan, Director of Princeton Center for Information Technology Policy and the co-author of AI Snake Oil. His presentation challenged virtually every assumption I had about AI timelines and implementation strategy. What struck me most wasn't his skepticism of AI hype, it was his framework for understanding why AI adoption follows predictable patterns, and more importantly, what this means for finance professionals making implementation decisions today. I want to share the key insights from his presentation and my analysis of what this means for our profession, because frankly, it changed how I think about AI strategy entirely. Professor Arvind opened with a framework that immediately resonated with me: the diffusion of innovations theory applied to AI. It distinguishes between invention, which is improvements in AI capabilities, and innovation, where we are actually building products people can use reliably. His example from software development was particularly illuminating. Software engineers aren't just going directly to ChatGPT for coding assistance. They're integrating AI capabilities into existing code editors and development environments. This product development takes significant time, and then engineers gradually become comfortable with this new approach. What caught my attention was his speculation about structural transformation. So he suggested that if AI eventually can code complex applications, the entire software industry might shift from building one-size-fits-all products to engineers creating customized solutions for each client in real time. This got me thinking about finance. We're not just talking about AI tools that make existing processes faster. We're potentially looking at fundamental changes in how financial services are delivered, how reporting is structured, and how client relationships are managed. But these structural changes happen over decades, not quarters. The most sobering part of Arvid's presentation was his analysis of AI reliability. He showed an example of a personal assistant ordering DoorDash to the wrong address and made a crucial point. If Siri plays the wrong song 10% of the time, that's annoying. But AI making errors in high-stakes application is simply unacceptable. This hit home for me because we work in an environment where accuracy isn't just preferred, it's legally required. Financial reporting, tax compliance, and audit processes, these aren't areas where good enough works. Arvind identified what he calls a feedback loop problem. So AI needs real-world deployment to improve reliability, but it's not reliable enough for widespread deployment. Since it can't be widely deployed, there isn't enough quality training data, especially from regulated industries like ours, to achieve the reliability we need. His analysis of self-driving cars was telling. After decades of development, the slow improvement in reliability has created this exact feedback loop. For finance applications, dealing with regulatory compliance and fiduciary responsibility, I expect similar timeline challenges. One of the most practical insights from the presentation was Arvid's distinction between automation and co-creation application. This framework immediately clarified my thinking about AI implementation priorities. For automation application, this is using AI for tasks like data cleaning, invoice processing, and basic reconciliation. These tasks have clear performance ceiling and specific risk profiles. The question isn't whether AI can do these tasks, but what happens when errors occur? What are the downstream impacts? What controls do you need? On the other hand, co-creation applications are fundamentally different. This is where you're using AI as a thinking partner. maybe for financial analysis, strategic planning, or developing new reporting framework. Here, you're maintaining oversight and making judgment calls about output. The risk isn't AI making autonomous decisions, it's whether AI is actually augmenting your capabilities or becoming a crutch that leads to skill atrophy. What I found particularly insightful was his observation that co-creation typically emerges bottom up from individual professionals finding AI useful, while automation is usually imposed top down by management. This suggests very different implementation strategies and change management approaches. Arvind spent considerable time on tacit knowledge, which is the undocumented essential processes that organizations rely on but never formally capture. His board meeting example was perfect. Officially, it's about directors reviewing performance and making decisions. In reality, most CEOs brief board members individually beforehand to avoid surprises. This resonated because every finance department operates this way. The official month-end close procedures versus how it actually happens. The documented expense approval process versus the informal escalation pathways. The formal audit preparation timeline versus the real coordination that occurs. AI agents trained on official documentation will miss these crucial dynamics entirely. As Arvind pointed out, they'd have to learn through making mistakes, expensive, relationship-damaging mistakes that could impact audit relationship or regulatory stand. His point about onboarding was particularly interesting. We might think we could train AI agents like junior hires, but current machine learning paradigms aren't designed for this type of contextual, relationship-based learning. Arvind's historical analysis of job displacement was reassuring but nuanced. The ATM example, where bank teller employment actually increased because banks could open more branches, illustrates how automation often creates new needs rather than simply eliminating roles. His discussion of radiology was particularly compelling. Despite Geoff Hinton's 2016 prediction that radiology will be obsolete within 5 years, radiologists' employment has grown. But what fascinated me was Arvind's observation that this isn't because AI can perform radiological tasks. It's because the job is more holistic than any task-based analysis suggests. This insight applies directly to finance roles. Being a financial analyst isn't just about data manipulation and calculations. It's about understanding business context, managing stakeholder relationships, exercising judgment in ambiguous situations, and providing strategic insight. As AI handles more routine tasks, I expect finance professionals to spend more time on oversight, interpretation, and strategic advisory work. The core value proposition shifts toward human judgment and relationship management. One area where Arvind's expertise particularly shone was his discussion of AI auditing. This distinction between pre-deployment and ongoing audits is crucial for a profession to understand. Traditional software can be evaluated once. You test its features, talk to other users, and make an implementation decision. AI systems are fundamentally different because they are stochastic. An AI application that works perfectly for one organization might fail completely with your specific data, processes, or user behavior. This means AI auditing must be continuous throughout the deployment lifecycle, not just a one-time assessment. For finance professionals, this has significant implications for both how we evaluate AI tools and how we might provide assurance services around AI systems. Arvind's mention of regulatory sandboxes was particularly relevant. Both the FRC and EU are creating control environments for AI experimentation. This cautious, monitored approach aligns with how finance organizations should be thinking about AI pilots. After processing Arvid's entire presentation, 3 strategic implications stand out for finance professions. First, timeline expectations need fundamental adjustment. We're looking at decades of gradual transformation, not years of revolutionary change. This means AI strategies should focus on capability building and process optimization rather than wholesale replacement of existing systems. The second is investment priorities should shift downstream. Instead of trying to build or buy cutting-edge AI capabilities, focus on data infrastructure, process documentation, and organization readiness. The companies that can effectively integrate AI when it's reliable will have the advantage. Third, human-AI collaboration models need development. The future isn't AI replacing finance professionals. It's finding optimal ways for humans and AI to work together. This requires experimentation with different control and oversight mechanisms. Arvind made one point that particularly resonated. Domain experts like finance professionals are better positioned than AI experts to understand what AI can and can't do in specific contexts. We need to trust our professional judgment about implementation readiness and risk tolerance. Professor Arvid's presentation reinforced my belief that successful AI adoption in finance requires a measured, strategic approach rather than reactive implementation driven by competitive pressure. I'm curious about your experiences. Are you seeing more success with automation or co-creation application in your finance roles? How are you handling the reliability and control challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this analysis valuable, subscribe for more practical insights on AI implementation in finance.